What's good guys, it's Zen, and today we are here in Season 23 to bring you the strongest builds. With Solar Hunter and Titan already covered, today I'm bringing you the strongest Dawnblade build for endgame PvE. Next week we'll begin with the Stasis build, so keep an eye out for that. With today's build, we will have infinite ×2 restoration with infinite healing rifts, essentially giving us access to mini wells that we can literally spam for the entire activity. On top of that, we will maintain infinite radiant and surge stacks, giving us the damage output of Well of Radiance on top of the sustain. With Pocket Well spamming as its primary focus, this build is no joke, so let's hop right in. Now guys, the first thing I want to explain is how exactly we will have infinite mini Well of Radiances. First of all, by slotting on Touch of Flame and Healing Grenade, we get an enhanced restoration ×2 effect when we throw a grenade at our feet. Now this ×2 restoration effect is extremely aggressive and alone gives you a ton of sustain, but when you combine it with a healing rift, you start to see the Well of Radiance level of sustain that you get. As you can see, I'm in an activity 25 levels under power. Keep in mind, GMs are 25 under, and I am literally taking no damage. Now that you understand the level of sustain stacking ×2 restoration and your healing rift gives you, why don't we go ahead and get infinite restoration and healing rifts? By slotting on Ember of Empyrean, your solar weapon final blows will extend the duration of restoration. As you can see, for just a few kills every few seconds, I can easily maintain infinite ×2 restoration. Now guys, in order to get infinite rifts, we will need to slot on Sanguine Alchemy. With this exotic, as long as we're standing in our rift and we get weapon kills, it will pause the countdown of our rift, extending the duration of it. Sanguine Alchemy synergizes heavily with Ember of Empyrean in that they both require kills to extend the duration of our sustain. So literally just by throwing a healing grenade at ourselves, using a rift, and getting a few solar weapon kills, we get infinite ×2 restoration and infinite healing rifts, which combine for a crazy Well of Radiance level of sustain on command in our neutral game. Now this sustain is crazy, but it wouldn't be a mini Well of Radiance without giving you a damage buff. So how does infinite radiant and infinite ×2 surge sound? Guys, Sanguine Alchemy's secondary perk will give you a ×2 surge bonus for free just for standing in your rift. This is an 18% solar weapon damage bonus. You can stack this even further by slotting on Ember of Torches. This fragment makes you radiant for getting melee hits. Radiant is a 25% universal damage bonus that stacks with the surge we get for being in our rift. Guys, the best part about this is Ember of Empyrean from before also extends the duration of radiant for solar weapon kills. So just by throwing a grenade at yourself, meleeing an enemy, then using your rift and getting a few solar weapon kills, you will have infinite ×2 restoration, infinite healing rifts, infinite radiant, and infinite ×2 surge stacks. That is literally on-demand Pocket Well of Radiance. It is actually so filthy, and I cannot believe that this is allowed in the game. If you wanted to, you could stack the damage bonuses even further with Empowering Rift, but I really do not recommend it for difficult PvE content. You guys have already seen the level of sustain that the ×2 restoration plus healing rift offers. Sacrificing that for an extra 20% damage isn't really worth it in my opinion, but I wanted to let you know that the option is available to you. Now next up, we're going to want Ember of Solace. This gives us an additional 50% duration for our restoration effects. This may seem redundant since we're using Ember of Empyrean to extend the duration of restoration, but guys, Ember of Solace makes the window to get those first Empyrean kills much more forgiving, and in my opinion makes the build much more intuitive and easier to effectively utilize. Then for your last fragment, grab Ember of Singeing. This gives you an additional 300% rift recharge when you cause scorch to enemies. This is so key to the build, as having your rift up faster means you will be able to reposition as needed. Now guys, in order to activate Ember of Singeing, we will need to scorch enemies, and we'll do that through our artifact perks this season. By slotting on Kindling Trigger, our solar weapons will scorch enemies whenever we are radiant, which as you know, will be all of the time with this build. This means that without thinking about it or changing our gameplay loop at all, our solar guns will have scorch rounds, giving us extra damage and activating Ember of Singeing, causing our rifts to come back 300% faster. This build is already so powerful, but we have a few more things that synergize to really push the strength over the edge. Two more artifact perks that we'll want to grab are Flint Striker and Rays of Precision. Now when we're standing in our healing rift trying to get the rapid solar kills, we should be going for some precision hits. This will proc Flint Striker, which gives us another way to get Radiant. On top of that guys, thanks to Rays of Precision, when we get precision kills, While we're radiant, we will cause ignitions, which are these high damage explosions with a really wide area of effect. Now another thing worth mentioning is that the Incinerator Snap melee that we're utilizing will cause ignitions on command if you hit all 5 of the projectiles. This gives us 2 methods of at-will ignitions, which is always nice. And then the last thing you'll want is the Heat Rises aspect. This aspect lets you shoot your weapons mid-air, which is always cool, but the main thing is that it gives you half of your melee back when you get a kill mid-air. This is really nice for spamming your melee, since you can just jump in the air and that counts as a mid-air kill. Also guys, with Heat Rises, if you hold your grenade button down, you consume the grenade. This gives you a weaker restoration of only ×1, but in exchange you get the Heat Rises buff, which grants aerial mobility and airborne effectiveness. Personally, I wouldn't ever consume the grenade, but it's a cool feature. Guys, the way you'll want to use this build is very simple, yet very potent. You'll throw your grenade at your feet, melee an enemy, rift, and get solar weapon kills. That's it. Maintain that and you'll have infinite mini wells of radiance. Get headshot kills and you'll cause explosions. Jump in the air if you want more melee. If you focus on all of these components I mentioned in the video and juggle your cooldowns properly, you will experience one of the most juiced builds in Destiny 2. Guys, this build is absolutely disgusting, so be sure to copy everything on my screen, or you can use the dim link in the description. There is no way this build is balanced, so give it a try today. If you enjoyed this video or learned anything at all, be sure to subscribe as I put a ton of effort into my content. Also guys, I already have a build out for Solar Hunter and Titan this season, and those are definitely worth the watch if you use other classes in this game. Either way, I appreciate you watching this far, and I'll see you next week for the Stasis build. Peace.